And welcome back to another episode of Casey Campbell's Videocast. Of course, I'm Casey Campbell from Great Lakes Post. And joining me right now is, since there's a lot of news in Michigan basketball, figured I'd get Andrew Kahn from MLive, who covers Michigan basketball. Andrew, how are you?
I'm okay, Casey. Thanks for having me on. How are you and your family doing?
We are doing good. So let's get into it. There's been a lot of news surrounding Michigan basketball over the last few weeks, of course, with the transfers and all that. And so where are we at now?
Yeah, they've kept me busy. During this off season of you had the shortened season, and no sports happening at all right now. But yeah, like you said, there's been news from when the season ended. Let's see if I could try to do this in order off the top of my head. You had Isaiah Livers declared for the draft. Okay, he's still deciding whether he'll come back or stay in, but that's still still up in the air. You've had two players transfer out. David DeJulius and Colin Castleton left the program and have since settled on new destinations: Cincinnati for DeJulius and Florida for Castleton. You've got a grad transfer that's come in, Mike Smith from Columbia. And you've got recruiting. You've got the signings of three more players for the 2020 class, which joined Zeb Jackson, who had already signed for a four-man class, ranked number 1 in the Big Ten, 8th nationally. And you had one commitment, decommit, Isaiah Todd, to join the G League, and another high-profile prospect, Josh Christopher, top 10 kid in the class, who was considering Michigan. Many experts, I guess you could call them, thought he was leaning Michigan. He ends up at Arizona State. So that's been a lot of movement. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. No one else has come or gone, but still, that's a fair amount of activity for this time, especially.
Two transfers in the season with DeJulius and then Castleton. Was there really any reason you think that those two really happened?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing I'll say is that's the average number of transfers for Division I men's basketball programs over these last few years. Most teams they have an average of 2 guys leave. So by the raw numbers, it's not that unusual, but I think it's a fair question. I was surprised that DeJulius left. I mean, he was getting playing time last year, often the first guy off the bench. The guy at his position was graduating. There was reason to believe he'd get more minutes next season. And he seemed to really like Juwan Howard, but no one really knows everything going on except the player and maybe those really close to him, his family members. So he has decided to go elsewhere. Castleton, again, I'm not going to say I was surprised or wasn't. It was more at least just going by playing time. It made a little more sense kind of to the naked eye as far as why he left. Still a lot of untapped potential there with him, a skilled player at his size. I would imagine he could still have a very productive college career. It just won't be in Ann Arbor.
Juwan Howard completed his first year, obviously not with the Big Ten tournament, and that was probably an adventure in itself for you personally in Indianapolis. And did you go to? You didn't go to Indianapolis, did you?
I was there. Yeah, I was there. It was what a wild kind of 24 hours. Rode down with a couple of my MLive colleagues, Kyle Austin, our Michigan State writer, and Mike Mahalan, our photographer, and just kind of the discussions we were having on the way there compared to the discussions we were having on the drive home, during which the NCAA tournament was canceled. And yeah, kind of incredible, surreal to think that that tournament was about to happen. I mean, we were there. We were in an arena, granted with no fans, but still packed pretty tightly on press row there. Just how much was learned in those days and weeks. It is amazing to think about. I mean, in my hotel, watching what was unfolding in the NBA world that Wednesday night,
yeah.
I was shocked that when I woke up, the Big Ten tournament was still on. But they eventually came to a decision that was relayed to the teams, not much more than 15 minutes before tip. But that did not happen. And yeah, as I guess you were alluding to, Juwan Howard's first season was was cut short at the kind of the most exciting time.
How do you, Juwan's first season, it was up, it was down, it was up, and was down again. Overall,
Right.
how do you think it went?
Yeah, I think it went well. Again, in this sport, seasons are judged on kind of how you do in March in the postseason, and every coach gets an incomplete in that category. But the hot start, I think, helped for a lot of reasons. Recruiting and just kind of silencing any doubters out there regarding the fact that he hadn't been a head coach, he hadn't been a coach at the college level to get off to that 7-0 start. Beat Mark Few in Gonzaga, beat Roy Williams in North Carolina. That was big. Then teams started making adjustments, and they hit a bit of a skid. Not having one of their best players, Isaiah Livers, for long stretches did not help. But they found their footing, and I think they thought overall they were playing better. In February, the regular season ended with a loss at Maryland, but I thought they thought they had a chance, to make some noise in the postseason. It just never happened. But overall, pretty good for Juwan. It's hard to sometimes judge the in-game stuff, adjustments and things like that, especially just 1 year, especially with no tournament. But on the recruiting front, he's proven to be, pretty darn good. And the program, I think is in good hands.
Yeah. The question will be next season's going to be a whole lot different. The first year with his guys, with the recruiting class coming in, and
Sure.
not really a clear picture on who's coming back. And with that, of course, Austin Davis with an injury, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, he did have. Okay. There's another piece of news. I guess you could say two of them. I mean, Franz Wagner did return, although he never put his name in the NBA draft to begin with. So I'm not sure how newsy that is. But Austin Davis did have surgery on his shoulder, but expected to be back by the start of the season. So even if everything does start on time, you should expect to see him out there. But yeah, as far as they do bring in, the 4 new players, 5, I guess, would count the grad transfer, and the uncertainty you referred to, I guess, really right now would be with Livers, whether he comes back or not. But yeah, it's a solid, lose 2 of your all-time winningest players, and Xavier Simpson and John Teskey. If Livers comes back, those are the only 2 starters you lose, and there's certainly still a strong core to build on.
I mean, you look at the Big Ten next year. I mean, there's not really a clear picture of. The question is if there's going to be a season or not. Let's just assume that there is. I don't want to get into that debate because that's for another day.
Sure.
But if they're assuming that there is a season, what could Michigan be looking like heading into this year? And I was talking to Michael Spath yesterday. I mean, the uncertainty with everybody is it could be another crazy year once again.
Yeah. Last year you had a team that was, a consensus front runner to win the conference because they were the number 1 team in the entire country in Michigan State. It maybe didn't go exactly as people planned there. Michigan State, when all is said and done, did get a share of that Big Ten title. But it was maybe a little more, competitive than people thought, with some teams, rising up. Rutgers, of course, and Penn State. They, both seemed, in line to reach the NCAA tournament for the first time in a long time. But yeah, I think Michigan will be pretty well positioned. Like I said, you lose 2 starters. That can't be understated. But if Livers comes back, and I would think, if I had to pick whether he does or doesn't, I would think he does. That's a pretty good nucleus with him, Eli Brooks, returning starter, and Franz Wagner, like I mentioned earlier. You've got freshmen, top 3 of them are in the top 100 nationally. That would lead me to believe that they're, just by that alone, they're potential contributors in year 1. And you've got other guys ready to step in and kind of take on bigger roles. Brandon Johns Jr. Would probably be the first one that comes to mind, but Cole Bajema also. You've got returning players on this team. You mentioned Austin Davis. That I think they would compete, for that upper tier of the Big Ten. Are they going to be the favorites to win the conference? No. But yeah, I would expect them to be very competitive again.
And the biggest news surrounding all of college sports right now is this national letter of this intent,
Name, image, likeness. Yeah.
Um, kind of explain to people, because I don't think there's been really clear what that is and what it could do.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's anyone that you could have on this show that would be able to uh, fully articulate exactly what's going to happen, because there are a lot of unknowns. Was it just yesterday, or this week at least, we'll say, the NCAA opened the door for that to really start happening, and by that I mean players being compensated beyond just a scholarship, room and board. They can capitalize, as you said, that NIL, name, image, likeness. They can capitalize on the fact that they are, in some cases, high profile college athletes, and can do endorsements, as such. They're talking about, limiting not necessarily the amount that any player can make, but the how boosters are involved and kind of what the money's going towards. So they make it seem like it's a free market, but it's really not, the way the NCAA is saying it as of now. I think they still got a lot of issues to work out. Congress is going to have to get involved at this point with the way things are worded currently. I don't know. I don't know, where you stand on this. It's, we're around college athletes a lot. There definitely is a market for them beyond what they're currently getting. So I certainly have no problem with them trying to get more. I almost think it should just be truly a free market, and let boosters pay what they want. I don't think it's going to turn into a situation. If an advantage starts swinging to certain schools, that's already happening. I mean, there's already a lot of advantages to. We're here in Ann Arbor, so I am at least talking about Michigan. There's advantages to coming to Michigan versus certain, say, MAC schools. I don't really see this as a problem in that regard.
Yeah. What could a college basketball season look like? I mean, I just got on my email and the MAC just announced a virtual media day. That could look like something in there, but how are people going to cover this team with COVID-19 and with the contingency plans? Is that it's going to be a lot different? How different could it be for you guys?
Yeah, that's interesting. So the MAC, when was that supposed to be there? For what sport was it?
For football.
For football. Okay. Yeah, so that would have normally been when is it going to be, in June or July?
Probably June, July.
Okay, so that I can understand then, taking those preemptive steps. Basketball, it's a little tougher to say. I mean, it would normally start a little later than football. Games for football start, I don't know what weekend it is this year for college football, if it's in August or September, but either way, very, very early in September at the latest, for games. Not to mention when practices and things like that would have to start. Basketball is a little later. Early November is when the first game starts. So that being said, I think it is too early for anyone to really say what's going to happen. I mean, you have, the foremost expert on infectious diseases telling folks in interviews that he doesn't know exactly whether there will be sports in 2020. There could be, but there might not. I think college is different than pro sports. I think people do need to understand that distinction. The thought of no fans in the stands for college doesn't really make sense to me, because if you don't have campuses open for business, for students being brought back into dorms and classrooms, I don't see then you wouldn't have fans in the stands, and vice versa. Like, I think those things go together, as opposed to pro football, which is not connected to academics in any way. You could play games potentially without fans. So it's just too early to say. I know it's probably not the answer you want, but it's difficult. And this is, these are certainly uncertain times for all of us.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll have you on as more Michigan basketball news comes about or anything else comes up. All right.
Absolutely, Casey. Happy to do it.
Thanks.